Welcome to Labster. I hope you have brought your wetsuit. Today we are going to dive into the deep end and learn all about water. We will explore its properties and figure out why it behaves the way it does. All of this water talk is making me thirsty, but I don't want to fry my circuits. Are you ready to make a splash? This simulation uses voiceovers. If you don't have audio, click the speaker symbol on the top right of your lab pad to switch the play mode. If you disable the sound effects, the lab pad will slide up whenever there are instructions to read. You can select what type of audio you prefer. Deselecting any of the options will mute that option. Click Continue to learn how to navigate through your mission. Using the lab pad is an important way to get the most out of this simulation. Is this the first time you are playing a Labster simulation? Perfect, then let's get started with your first mission. Water is all around us. 71% of planet Earth's surface is covered by water. No wonder you humans call it the pale blue dot. In this forest you will find water in lots of different places. Investigate water around the forest by clicking on the highlighted objects. Look at this spider web and how the water on it beads up into droplets. I wonder what is happening here. How does this water strider walk on the water? It can't be magic, and it isn't floating. Maybe there's a scientific explanation. This deer has had a tough day of running around the forest. But it still manages to keep cool and not overheat. Has this got something to do with water? Have you had enough time to explore the forest? Let's head over to the hollow table to gain some insight into why water behaves the way it does. Go to the hollow table. Due to my electronic disposition, I shouldn't think water is amazing, but I do. Think of it as my guilty pleasure. When we talk about water, we are talking about the chemical H2O or dihydrogen monoxide to be precise. It is comprised of 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom. Using the atoms on the hollow table, try to construct a water molecule. Way to go! The bonds you have just formed between oxygen and hydrogen are covalent. The bond is formed from a shared pair of electrons. An electron is a very small particle that is negatively charged. One of these electrons comes from oxygen and the other from hydrogen, forming a covalent bond. There is one core property of water that can help explain all of these forest observations, and that is polarity. Chemical polarity is a separation of electric charge. In the case of water, the oxygen atom is slightly more negative than the hydrogen atoms. Look at the image on the lab pad. You can think of this like a game of tug-of-war, where the oxygen atom is stronger at pulling on the electrons in its shared bond with hydrogen. However, the water molecule isn't charged. It has a partial displacement of charge across the molecule, where oxygen is slightly negative, represented by the Greek symbol delta negative, and hydrogen slightly positive, delta positive. Assign the partial charges to the water molecule you have just constructed by clicking on the individual atoms. Press confirm when you are done. Electric. You have correctly assigned the partial charges. Why does a water molecule have a distribution of charge? Yes, you have been paying attention. The difference in electronegativity between hydrogen and oxygen creates this partial charge distribution. A single water molecule isn't going to do anything on its own. When you have lots of water molecules, the slightly negative oxygen atom becomes attracted to the partially positive hydrogen atoms on the other molecules. This attraction is known as hydrogen bonding and is responsible for lots of the physical properties of water. Using your knowledge of attraction, try to form a hydrogen bond between these 2 water molecules. Here comes another water molecule. Try to form another hydrogen bond. Complete Complete the hydrogen bond network. You are on a roll. Hydrogen bonding allows water to be attracted to itself, and form attraction with other polar molecules. With this newfound knowledge, let's explore the forest to see the properties of water in action. Inspect the tree with the spider web. The reason the water on this spider web forms droplets is due to a property of water called cohesion. You can think of cohesion as water having a stickiness or attraction to itself. This occurs because of the hydrogen bonding between water molecules. Water can also be attracted to other molecules. When this happens, it is known as adhesion. Water particularly likes other polar molecules or charged groups. Adhesion allows water to climb up the sides of narrow tubes. The image on the lab pad can help you visualize cohesion and adhesion. What makes water sticky and cohesive? You're riding a wave here, congrats. The stickiness of water molecules is due to the opposite attraction of delta-negative oxygen and delta-positive hydrogen. Water is transported in plants through small tube-like tissues known as xylem. Cohesion and adhesion is integral to the transpiration process, as well as other factors such as pressure. Cohesion allows the water molecules to stick together, and adhesion sticks them to the xylem cells, allowing the water to rise up the tubes via a physical process called capillary action. Click on the screen to view the transport of water inside the tree. On the screen you can see how the water molecules move up the xylem in this tree. Do you think you can name the different parts of this process? Label the different parts of the water transpiration diagram by selecting the different options and placing them on the screen. Great, that is adhesion. This is the xylem cell. Fantastic, this shows cohesion. Yes, this is a H2O molecule. Fantastic, looks like you know your stuff. I think it is interesting to note how molecular phenomena on the smallest scale can have an effect on the human scale and the very existence of life. Are you ready to learn more about the properties of water? Head back over to the lake. One property that makes water integral to life is that it is a fantastic solvent. This means that it is good at dissolving things. The sea is super salty because it has salt and other minerals dissolved in it. Water is a good solvent because of its polarity. With its differently charged sides, water molecules are attracted to and can break apart other charged molecules. For example, water can break up salt into sodium and chlorine ions. Water being an excellent solvent is really important to life. Fish have the capability to breathe underwater, due to oxygen dissolved in the lake. It also allows minerals to be dissolved in the bloodstream, and nutrients to be transported in plants. What property of water allows it to easily dissolve things? You are truly dissolving all of these quiz questions, congrats. As water is polar, it can form hydration spheres around molecules and ions, bringing them into solution. Now, more about cohesion. We know that the physical property occurs because of hydrogen bonding. But why does it allow this little buddy to walk on the water? The water molecules at the surface have less neighboring molecules to form hydrogen bonds within molecules deeper into the lake. So they form more hydrogen bonds with the same neighbors, creating surface tension. Surface tension allows light insects like the water strider to walk on the lake. Move to the tree on the lakeside. On the screen you can see a more visual representation of how the strider can walk on the lake's surface. Try to fill in the gaps on the diagram. Complete the diagram by placing all the labels in the correct place. Yes, this is cohesion. Right on. Here cohesion occurs in all directions. Spot on. This is surface tension. Fantastic, the berry is floating. This is different to surface tension. Correct, the cohesion is stronger at the surface. You are really making waves. This is again an example of how molecular interactions can have real-world effects. Why does surface tension only exist at the surface? Good job! The water molecules at the surface have fewer neighbors to form hydrogen bonds with, so they form more with the ones nearby, creating surface tension. Have you ever noticed that when you go to the beach, the sand is really hot, but the water is nice and cool? The sun is providing the same amount of energy, so why is there a temperature difference? Water is said to have a high thermal capacity. This means that it takes a lot of energy for water to heat up, and that water is great at maintaining its heat. These properties exist because a lot of energy is required to break hydrogen bonds between water molecules. Why is there a temperature difference between sand and water? Splashing. In order to increase the temperature of water, you need to break the hydrogen bonding interactions. This requires more energy than increasing the temperature of the sand, thus the water is cooler. Let's test your knowledge of water properties with a final game. Go to the quiz screen. Determine what property of water is shown on the screen by clicking on one of the buttons. Stellar work. That's all for now. You have dipped your toes into the world of polarity, casted off into the depths of hydrogen bonding, and swam ashore to the isle of cohesion and adhesion. Now the next time you have a glass of water, you might just think a little more about what is inside. Let me ask you one last question. Do you feel like you gained relevant knowledge during this simulation? Thank you for your feedback. Your score has been saved together with your 100% progress. Congratulations, you have completed the simulation. We hope you enjoyed it and you feel wiser now.